Yeah. It's the 1st of February, 2025, and this is your old pal, Eshkalar the Mighty. I'm going to sit over there so you can't see me on camera, but I want you to be sure that you knew whereof I, who of I, whatever. So today, I'm going to give you a lecture. That's right, Eshkalar is going to lecture you on something really important, the nature and the use of magic. Let's call this a brief history of magical time. So, advanced minerals composed of elements with ultra-high nucleon counts like Deminsk, hecatium, efflatium, gradually decay into more common elements like uranium, bismuth, and lead. This decay process, magication or Aleph decay, releases suprabinding energies in the form of photons, alpha particles, and Aleph particles, also known as Kells. A Kell is the gauge particle of the standing magical field, like photons are the electromagnetic field. The standing magical field is a quantum field, the 27th or 29th, depending on your source, which is accessed to perform feats of magic. Spellcasting. A wizard type concentrates on a part or fragment, also known as an affinity, of one of the three major magical patterns, and speaks a word or two, or 10. Some spells also require semantic components, like pointing or weaving part of a pattern, or dancing a la Shiva, or marking an area of effect, or targeting a range point. This process acts to create of the mage's mind a lens appropriate to the desired effect. Magic is channeled through this lens and does real work in the real world. This work produces and releases randomized energy in the form of waste heat, inside the wizard's brain, of course. Thus, spellcasting is limited in scope and rate of fire by the wizard's ability to shed waste heat, by radiating it from his skin, standing inside a cold room, or whatever. Cast too powerful an effect, or too many smaller effects in a row, and the mage's mind overheats exactly like running a fever from disease. A fat or large wizard could conceivably cast a more powerful spell, as his body is a better heat sink, but he could not keep on casting until he takes a break to cool down. Radiative heat exchange is slower for fat or large people. Keep that in mind. This is why big, strong fighters, like Fafhrd the Barbarian, aren't big, strong mages, and why warlocks, like the Grey Mouser, are generally smaller, slimmer guys. Spells have two forms, quick and slow. A low-level wizard can cast some higher-level spells if he really wants to, but they take more time to activate, or else it keels over and dies from the excess heat. This, to take an example from Dungeons & Dragons, a 5th level wizard can cast a 3rd level spell at the usual quick casting rate, or cast a 4th level spell at the slow cast rate, roughly a minute or two to cast. Obviously this isn't useful in combat, but it does explain why low-level wizards can have higher-level effects in their lairs, troves, and so on. Caution, there is a higher failure rate associated with long-cast spells. Now, spell-like effects from non-casters. Monsters can create magical effects too. Breath weapons, mental paralysis, wood binding, earth stakes, multiple shades or summoned elementals, hurricane growls. All of these are considered non-caster spell-like effects. The creature using them does so instinctively. There is no mental focus required. That limits such creation to once every few minutes at its fastest. Thus, dragons can't breathe a series of multiple blasts of fire as if from a flamethrower. It's one and done. Spell failure. There once was a girl from Darnassus who's famous for skipping her classes. Reciting a spell, the thing went to hell. Let's all wave at her as she passes. The reason wizards have specific affinities like fire, water, divination, and others is to make the memorization process simpler and less subject to error. The wizard must be able to hold a pattern fragment firm in his mind while casting, or all the energy of the spell winds up as waste heat in his brain. For higher level spells, that means it's microwave your poodle time, splat. For lower level spells, he passes out from heat stroke. Spellcasting penalties and limitations. Pursuant to which, the heat penalty, blood heat as we call it, for spellcasting is as follows. brain blood temperature goes up 1 degree Fahrenheit for every level of the spell he casts. Similarly, it takes 1 minute for the brain to cool down 1 degree. An ordinary human, lean to fat ratio about 5 to 1, will become woozy if his blood heat goes up above 5 degrees. If it goes up over 105 degrees, he begins to hallucinate. Any higher, he passes out. Extended periods of heat, over 103 degrees Fahrenheit, can cause permanent brain damage, just like it does in a fever. Note that this is quite readily explaining the D&D spellcasting system of segments and rounds, which limits a spellcaster to 1 spell per minute. Now, I want to talk about the 3 patterns. The 3 magical patterns in order from low to high are the Thotek Knot, the Nakdar Web, and the Pagchia Wheel. These patterns are subdivided into smaller sections called urges or affinities. Urges are fire affinity, water affinity, earth affinity, air affinity, translocation, locking, and identify. These are the major ones. There are minor ones too, like separate, ravel, and unravel, The Thotek is for 0 and 1st level spells. The Nakdar is for 2nd and 3rd. The Pagchia is for 4th and 5th. Above 5th, the wizard must craft his own spells from fragments or affinities of all these patterns, which is why no 2 high-level wizards are alike. These specialized higher-level spells are called Shalimar infusions. The nascent wizard type starts dreaming of the Thotek Knot at the beginning of the sexual maturation process, about 10 to 12 for boys or for girls, and 13 to 15 for boys. The casting of cantrips and spells must be taught by a mentor. These younger wizards that experiment for themselves often die in the process. That's why you need a mentor. A very few can self-actualize and self-create spells. They're called prodigies. A journeyman wizard is one who, after some time gelling with the Thotek, begins to dream of the Nakdar Web. At this time, his or her Thotek-derived spells will become perfected. Again, as with the Thotek, a mentor is sought. This might happen any time or never. Not everyone ever dreams of the Nakdar. A mage, or Mahoka, is one who, after spending time casting spells from the Nakdar, begins to dream of the Pagchia Wheel. Most Pagchia-derived spells are merely more powerful versions of Nakdar spells. Two-Finger, an elemental attack spell, becomes Blowtorch, or Wind Spear, or Impale, or Drench. These the wizard can create for himself. For the other advanced spells like Fly, Deflection, Wall of Stone, Wall of Fire, Wind, Water, the mage must seek out a trainer or mentor. Shalimar is where it begins to get weird. Rock to Mud requires elemental pattern fragments from both earth and water. Similarly, lava is a fusion of earth and fire affinities and pattern fragments. This means a synthesis or fusion of 2 different pattern fragments must be focused upon to create in the mage's mind the appropriate lens. All ice spells are Shalimars, all lava spells too. In fact, any para-elemental spell is a Shalimar infusion. This ends your first lesson in the nature of magic and its use. This is your old pal Eshkalar telling you a little magical truth because I can.